And when we landed in Scotland, went down to England, and then after I worked with the military police to prep the situation for the invasion. After the invasion, I went to France, spent a couple of years in France, sometime in Germany.
When you say prepared for the invasion, where did you start to prepare the invasion?
Well, the troops were scattered all over England, and the military designed facilities where troops of different expertise would be housed in one facility, and then we would take them from that facility to the troops that were going across the channel.
Yeah.
So when I got to France, you would have a mixture of infantry, small arms, etc. So when the guys hit the beach, they had their own support.
I see. Did you have any knowledge of the German language at the time?
No, none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you experience any prejudice as a Jew in the army?
Not really, not overtly. Shortly after I joined the army, I was in an infantry unit, and one of the guys in the unit said something to me about the Jews being in the quartermaster, and I said, "Well, here I am in the infantry." So, but otherwise, you don't know what's underneath. But there was no overt, and anti-Semitism.
No, that's good.
You don't know what goes on.
Did you deal with any of the German POWs?
Not extensively. Not extensively.
Were you around?
Mostly, since we were military police, and so during conflict, we were responsible for making sure the roads were open. There wasn't any activity to undermine the efforts, etc. So that one was pretty smooth, no problem. And after the war, we were heavily involved in, getting guys home. So.
Yeah. What years were you in there? During what years were you in the service?
1942 to 1946. 4 years. 2 years in Europe.
Right.
Mostly in France, sometime in England and Germany.
Was German occupied France?
No. We were in the free part of France. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't get to France until, well.
Keep it down, please. Keep it down.
Well, let me put it this way. If I got to France, we were sent to Brittany, and Brittany was the home of all the U-boat pens on the south coast of Brittany. So there was quite a bit of military activity. But other than that, it was pretty quiet.
What did you encounter townspeople, local people? Were you always surrounded by?
Oh yeah.
In France?
We interacted with the French very, very much. They were extremely grateful. I mean, they were really throwing themselves at you, kissing you, hugging you, thanking you for being there.
Yeah.
I mean, after several years of German occupation, they were really glad to see the Americans. They really were.
Was it mostly Americans rather than Brits?
Well, I was stationed mostly with. Once we got to France, I was stationed mostly with American troops. But in England, I was stationed with British troops.
Yeah, yeah. And did the Americans and Brits commingle in their?
Oh, yeah, no problem. It was fine. Well, as a matter of fact, there weren't any English people in the military unit. There was a guy from Scotland, there was a guy from Australia, a guy from Canada, and we all got along very, very well.
What do you attribute to the brainwashing of the supposedly civilized German people, the people in Germany, the civilians? What turned them so anti-Semitic, you suppose? You ever wonder that?
Sure. You wondered how Germany, which was the most advanced cultural nation in Europe, could have become the subject of Hitler's propaganda and absorbed it.
Right.
That's a very complex sociological question,
Yes.
and I really don't feel qualified to respond. But I mean, it's something that I've thought about, all my life. How did the Germans, the most advanced culture in Europe, fall for this stuff?
Right.
I don't know.
Do you see any parallels today? Any parallels?
Oh, yeah.
In the way the news is reported?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Look, a lot of the news is very, very biased,
Yes.
and you find people who will just accept what they're being told. That's the problem. They're not using their brains to think.
Yeah. How about the news with regard, or as regards news about Israel? You noticed the bias?
Well, not so much.
No.
The Wall Street Journal, I don't read any of the local press. No. I only read the Wall Street Journal. And the Wall Street Journal has got a very even-handed view of Israel.
Yes. Yeah, but how about television news? Do you watch? You watch any of the
television news is a waste of time.
Why so?
It's not news. It's not significant. They don't report in any depth.
Yeah.
Mostly you get, who shot who.
On the local news, but do you have cable news channels?
No, we don't watch cable. We watch the local news.
But they still report about Israel. They've reported about.
I'm not aware. Offhand.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any extreme prejudices against Israel.
How about the way that the protests, the anti-Israel protesters, have been reported? Does it seem like the news is?
That's a major mystery to me.
What do you mean? How do you mean? How do you mean? What's a mystery?
It's an indication that the people who are going to college nowadays are severely uneducated, and they don't understand really what's happening, and they're subject to whatever kind of propaganda that comes to them. But they're not thinking. They don't understand Israel's position in the world. What can you say about American college students that support Hamas? There's no explanation for that.
Well, other than perhaps the funding of the college programs from China and Qatar and the Gulf states.
There could be, some undoubtedly some influence about the funding and what kind of propaganda gets embedded in that funding.
And the Gulf states send over Arab students to study, and the Gulf states pay for it. And so the colleges it's a gravy train for them.
They're there. They love the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they give them full
This has
shrift.
been going on for a long time. I mean, China's been doing this for, 30 or 40 years. They send their students over. They pay tuition. They're the only ones who pay full tuition. The colleges are only too happy to have them.
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel about the way that you imagine that World War II history, for example, the reasons for U.S. involvement and the freedoms that we saved, how are being conveyed to the current generations? Do you think about that? You say they're uneducated.
I don't have a fix on that. I don't know how that's being communicated to students nowadays. I've got several grandchildren who some with advanced graduate degrees, and I don't hear a lot from them about the educational system or what effects World War II had on it.
In which city did you grow up?
New York,
Yeah. Which borough?
mostly. I lived in the Bronx till I was 17. Then we moved to Brooklyn for a couple of years, and by 19 I was in the Army.
So, was freedom? You hear the Democrats saying now, well, democracy is at risk if Trump were to be elected. Was democracy genuinely at risk before World War II? I mean, at the time of Nazi and the Imperial Japanese parties?
No, I don't think democracy was ever at risk. I mean, there were elements, in every political situation, you always have some offshoots, some extremes. And like in the United States before World War II, we had Nazi cults here.
Right.
But we had some, I think we had some Russian communist groups also.
No, but didn't they have at Madison Square Garden, the Bund had a huge meeting
Yeah.
in the 30s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you can always drag up people who are just aren't well schooled and aren't well connected.
No, but the Nazi goal was global conquest, wasn't it?
Sure.
They conquered Europe.
Yeah, they took all of Europe. And if we weren't prepared, they would have taken us too. Sure.
And so freedom was at stake at that point.
Oh, well, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Had we lost, we'd be speaking German and...
That's right.
yeah, if it weren't for you guys.
That's right. If it weren't for Franklin D. Roosevelt, who really steered this country on a course that led us into support of the Allies in World War II. If it weren't for him, we would have been in dire trouble with some other president who may have succumbed to German propaganda. Could have been a problem. There were a lot of pro-German influences in this country at that time. The Germans, the Germans had organized German groups.
Yes.
In
the cities, Los Angeles included.
Yeah.
Yeah. New York, other cities, Pennsylvania largely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what concerns do you have that the lessons of World War II might not be remembered at a time like such as this?
I don't think the current generation of young people, and by that I mean people from maybe 18 to 35 or something, I don't think they have any really strong connection to the principles of World War II. I think they see what's going on here, and not too concerned.
How about the Holocaust? Recognition of the Holocaust and what was at stake also to stop the genocide against the Jews?
Well, the Holocaust was one of the worst things that happened to humanity in its history. And unfortunately, it was the Jews that bore the brunt of it. I'm not really that surprised. Look at the anti-Semitism that exists today. When I came home in 1946 from World War II, I was convinced that anti-Semitism had ended. No such thing. It's as strong as it ever was, maybe more.
Because of anti-Israelism?
No, I think that anti-Israelism stems from anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Israel is used as essentially as a proxy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and it makes you wonder about people in general. I don't think it's particular to the United States that we succumb to this propaganda. I mean, Hitler proved that you could propagandize anybody.
Yeah.
And especially if people only have one source of information with no conflicting information, right. They get swept up in it. They believe it because that's what you hear. Nowadays with television and 24-hour coverage, it's a real danger, and you have to be alert if you're going to combat any kind of governmental control.
Are you concerned about authoritarianism coming back?
I'd say it.
Authoritarianism, such as during the COVID lockdowns and the government controlling people's movements?
Not particularly.
Okay.
There's such a strong undercurrent of democracy in this country and freedom that even if you have one political party promoting a particular point of view, I don't think it's going to have any standing.
Except under emergency, when they call a public health emergency.
Yeah, well, even that's limited. They tried to do that with COVID, and there was a lot of reaction, a lot of reaction to it.
What's your age now?
Pardon?
What's your age? How old are you? In this case,
I'm going to be 103 in October.
And to what do you attribute your longevity?
Huh?
To what do you attribute your longevity?
Good genes.
Yeah.
I did. I took care of myself all my life. I ate responsibly. I always was involved in sports and physical activities. Even into my 70s and my 80s, I was playing racquetball. I was pretty active.
Yeah. What was your profession?
I was a corporate financial person.
So you had a sedentary daytime life. Were you sitting at a desk most of the time?
Yeah. Yeah, I was. But I always participated in extracurricular activities. I belonged to very different organizations, charitable groups. For many years, I headed up a group that funded the Jewish Home for the Aging. So I've always had some goals in view.
How about Jewish war veterans? Were you involved?
Excuse me?
Jewish war veterans were you involved with?
Just the group that you saw here today.
Yeah.
I went to a few meetings, I'm not really a person who gets involved in groups, except for the Jewish home.
Okay. Jewish home for the aged.
Huh?
Jewish home for the aged.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Good, good. And which neighborhood do you live in?
Where do I live now? In Encino.
I mean, where did you spend most of your time in L.A.?
Oh, yeah.
Encino?
At this point, I spend all my time in L.A.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, but the majority of your years here in L.A., Encino?
My wife and I have traveled a lot all over the world.
Okay.
We've been to Asia and Europe and etc. Haven't been to Africa. I don't have a lot of,
Motivation?
yeah,
Okay.
whatever.
Very good. Is it all right if we put this online and other things that we can,
Sure.
to educate people?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can put anything I said online.
Okay.
I'll stand by it.